Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carolyn, and as you can tell behind me, I talk about books. Today's video is going to be my May 2020 wrap-up. I believe I read 9 books in the month of May, which is okay. It's pretty good, especially considering I went back to work in May. Let's go ahead and get started and talk about some of the books that I read this month. So the first book that I completed in the month of May is Beatrice and Virgil by Yen Martel. So this author is the author that wrote Life of Pi, which I read last year, and I really enjoyed it. I love that with all of his books, you can tell that he's not just writing this like fiction story that you're reading, he's writing about life and he's writing about something bigger. I listened to this on audiobook and I'm really glad that I did it through that format. I enjoyed the narrator. I thought it helped me pacing wise go through this a little bit quicker. So this book is about an author, and he has this great idea for a story that's going to be sort of a metaphor for the Holocaust. And it's not really going well in terms of getting it published. In the meantime, he runs into this taxidermist. And the taxidermist is writing a play called Beatrice and Virgil, and he asks this author to help him write that. I'm glad, like I said, that I listened to it on audiobook because it helped pacing wise. It helped me get through this. At the beginning, when we were learning about the author, I believe his name is Henry. When we were learning about Henry, I really enjoyed that. And because I love Yen Martel's writing style, I thought this might be a new favorite. I'm really enjoying this. And then we met the taxidermist and it got really interesting. And then as we got into the play, it slowed down considerably, and the play, y'all, is just weird. It's so weird, and you're reading the play almost in its entirety, and it just gets so slow. And I'm not going to ruin what the metaphor for the overall book is. It'll become clear once you read it. And I liked that idea, but I don't know that I loved the execution. So I wish I liked this book a little bit more, but I do love Yen Martel's writing style. And so I will be kind of looking for some more work by him in the future, but this one was just not, I did not love this one as much as I loved The Life of Pi. So the next book that I completed during the month of May was The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. This is a YA novel about a young girl named Star, and she unfortunately witnesses her friend Khalil murdered at the hands of the police. So this is a book about the Black Lives Matter movement and police brutality, and I think it is an incredibly important novel to read. One of the things that I didn't think I was gonna love, but I actually did, was the fact that this is YA. Usually I don't like YA because I feel like adult authors trying to write for 15, 16, 17-year-olds doesn't ever really read like they're 15, 16, 17 years old. But I think Angie Thomas did a really masterful job of making it believable that you were really reading from a teenage perspective and a teenager grappling with some of the most difficult experiences that she will probably ever go through. So this is a book that I actually really enjoyed for that reason. I think because it's YA, it's something that is easily accessible for everyone, and I think it's something that everybody needs to read. In terms of the representation, obviously me as a white woman can't touch on that, so what I'm going to do is actually link some reviews down below from booktubers of color and let them talk about the way they feel that this was helpful for them or what they felt about this book. I think it's important to highlight other voices, especially when my voice is not necessarily an important voice in regards to the representation. So I would like them to be able to do that, and I really advise you to go down and check them out, check out their channels, and check out the content that they are doing and what they're reading. The next book that I finished in the month of May was A Spark of Light by Jodi Picoult. This is my first book by this author, and I enjoyed it. This is a book about a hostage situation, a shooting and a hostage situation inside of a reproductive health clinic. And it's told in reverse. So you're starting, I believe, at about 5 p.m. on the day of this particular tragedy, and then you're working your way up throughout the day, and I think you end at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're following a variety of different characters. I really enjoyed this because I feel like it brings up a lot of important questions on both the pro-life and the pro-choice sides. I do think it's a little bit lopsided in terms of its kind of support. I feel like you can kind of tell where the author is coming from, but I do think it's important and it brings up important questions for both sides. The pacing for me in this was a little bit tricky. I feel like I finally hit about halfway through and I really started to pick up. It wasn't my favorite that I've read this month, but I still found it really interesting, and they brought up a lot of interesting questions, a lot of interesting viewpoints. There was a twist in here that I felt was pretty predictable, but I know that it's not supposed to be a thriller. It's not supposed to be something that we're trying to figure out what's going on. I think it's pretty apparent what's going on the entire time, and I think that this was a really interesting book if you are interested in reproductive health. These facilities do a lot more than just provide abortions, and so I think that's a common misconception that is cleared up a little bit in this book. So that would be something I would recommend. If that is a topic that you're looking to get a little bit more informed on, this could be an accessible way to do that through a work of fiction. There's a lot of author's notes in the back there where you can see the research that she has done. The next book that I read this month, I'm not going to go too much into detail because I did an entire reading vlog on it that you can check out, but that was My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Bachman. It is about a young girl named Elsa, and her grandmother is her best friend, and her grandmother is just incredibly eccentric, and in turn Elsa is an incredibly eccentric little girl, and her grandmother passes away and leaves her almost kind of a scavenger hunt of letters to tell people in her life that she is sorry for various things that have gone on through this grandmother's life. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it since there was an entire reading vlog on it. I did really enjoy this. It seems to be a similar theme. The beginning of this was kind of harder for me to get into, but then the ending did pick up a little bit once all of the ties start coming together. Frederick Bachman, as you guys know, is my favorite author, so when I say it's not my favorite of his, that bar is still incredibly high. I still really enjoyed this book and think it might be something that anybody could benefit from. He talks about a lot of things in the human experience. He talks about loss. He talks about grappling with guilt. He talks about things that I think we can all really understand. So I do highly recommend this, even though it may not be my favorite of his. The next book that I completed is another one that I have a reading vlog up for, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, and that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is a thriller novel about a mental health professional named Theo, and he is hoping to work with a young lady named Alicia. She shot her husband in the face 5 times and then never spoke another word, so he feels like he's going to be the psychotherapist that's going to really have this breakthrough with her. This was a pretty big disappointment for me, unfortunately. I was so excited about it. I had so many of my friends tell me that this is a great thriller, and I just felt like overall this was so convenient in terms of the steps we took to get to the conclusion. Again, there's a reading vlog and I go into a little bit more detail there, but overall I was pretty disappointed with this. I think I settled on a 3-star rating because the twist was actually very interesting and I actually really enjoyed the twist. But I felt like all the lead up to it was pretty convenient, pretty disappointing in my humble opinion. So unfortunately, this was kind of a miss for me, but I did enjoy the writing style. It was very quick, I think maybe because it was so convenient. So it's very binge-worthy. You can get through it pretty quickly. So I do think if Alex Michaelides writes more in the future that I still would be interested in picking that up. The next book that I completed, it's actually an illustrated novella, but it was the last book that I had to complete by this author, and that is The Deal of a Lifetime by Frederick Bachman. As you can see, it's incredibly short, so I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't really want to spoil anything. As we do in a lot of Frederick Bachman novels, we start with a character that is incredibly unlikable. We don't really like this person. He's made some questionable decisions in his life, particularly as a parent. But then, as you can see, there is a deal that is made that makes him a lot more redeemable. Again, not going to go into too much detail on that. I did enjoy it, but again, it's not quite my favorite. I didn't particularly just fall in love with the Bachman works I read this month, but I think that's because I'm just so in love with Beartown and Us Against You that I don't know if anything is going to ever compete with that. But I love that this is illustrated, and I love that, again, it does exactly what Bachman novels do, makes you look into your soul and become very introspective about the choices that you are making in your own life. The next book I read was Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire. This is the 5th book in the Wayward Children series, and it's a series that I really enjoy. The series is about children that go away to magical worlds, come back, and are having a little bit of trouble adjusting. So think like Alice in Wonderland, she leaves our world, goes to Wonderland, comes back. Think the kids in the Chronicles of Narnia leaving our world, coming back, having trouble adjusting. And what I love about these books in particular, some people don't love, but their length, they're kind of novella length. Usually they're shorter, I believe, than like 200 pages. Yeah, they're like 206 pages. So very short, very manageable length. And if there's a world that you don't love that you're reading about in one book, the next book probably is not about that particular world. So it gives you some variety, which I really enjoy. One of the critiques that I often hear about this series is because they're so short, people feel like they're being told what's happening rather than shown. And I haven't really felt that in the other ones. It never really was a problem for me. Until this one, unfortunately. I felt like the most exciting parts of it were ones that we were being retold after the fact, and the parts that I didn't love were the parts that we were actually shown. This particular book follows the characters from book 2, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, which I feel like is probably my favorite in the series. So I was excited that Come Tumbling Down followed Jack and Jill, who we followed there. But I didn't love it, actually. I'm finding that I don't love the books about the huge cast of characters going on a quest. I like the ones where we're looking back at their original experience in the world. So we are back in the moors that we were in and Down Among the Sticks and Bones, but we're going on a quest. And I don't know that I loved the quest. But again, I'm going to be excited to pick up the next one because it doesn't necessarily mean that we're picking up exactly where we left off in this book. The next book that I read in the month of May was a thriller, and that is The Last Houseguest by Megan Miranda. I think this is my 3rd book by Megan Miranda that I have read. So my husband is from Maine, and in the last few summers we have gone to Maine in the summertime. It's been my favorite part of the entire year, and this is the first year that we aren't going to be going back. So what did I do? I tortured myself by reading a book about people vacationing in Maine. So this is about a girl who is in charge of sort of running a bunch of rental homes in Maine during the summer season. And during the summer of 2017, her best friend was killed or committed suicide. Nobody really knows what's going on. And she is going to try and figure out during the summer of 2018 what actually happened and what went on during that particular summer. I enjoy Megan Miranda's books. They're never my favorite thrillers of all time, but they're easily accessible thrillers. And like I said, this was a great one for the summertime. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I think that really helped that I could be doing other things. And it was just a great kind of listening experience to be getting to go through this both in physical form and listening to the audiobook. So I did really enjoy this one. Again, it's not going to be my favorite thriller of all time. I think I gave it like 3.75 or 4 stars, something like that. So in an enjoyable, and getting an enjoyable rating, but again, not one of my favorites of all times, but still something that you might want to pick up, particularly if you're looking for maybe a lighter thriller in the summer. I know that sounds weird, like a light murder mystery, but there you go. Maybe something to listen to or read during the summertime. And the last book that I picked up during the month of May was Confessions of a Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. This is not the type of book that I normally pick up. I don't read a lot of contemporaries, and if I do, they're certainly not lighter contemporaries. They are a little bit more hard-hitting, but I found this one at Goodwill for like 50 cents, and I've heard people talk about it in the past. I thought I might like something a little bit lighter. So I went ahead and picked this one up. This is one that I did listen to predominantly on audiobook, and I'm actually really glad that I did that, because this character, I feel like if I just read it in print, she could be really obnoxious. I felt like all the problems she was having were self-inflicted and very privileged, and especially in this current day and age, privilege is something that I'm really grappling with in myself. And so this was something that a lot of the times I was kind of rolling my eyes about. But overall, I'm really glad I listened to the audiobook, because the narrator made her a little bit more endearing and let her kind of realize the privilege that she has as well. But it was just kind of a silly, easy read. I thought it was really fun. I think I gave it 3 stars, 3.5 stars. So still an enjoyable read. I don't think it did anything incredibly special, but if you are looking for an easy read, something that's going to be entertaining, something that's going to make you laugh, I think this might be a good one for you. For somebody like myself who does struggle with anxiety, this was a little bit of a tougher read. She's getting into some situations that just made me sweat. And I'm just really glad that it wasn't me. But again, they were all problems that were self-inflicted, so you kind of didn't feel too bad for her. I believe that this is a series. I don't know that I'm going to go out of my way to continue the series, but it was something that I am kind of glad I picked up. It was a fun read for me. Not necessarily my favorite of the month, but one that I was pleasantly surprised with. So there you go, friends. That was my May 2020 wrap up. Maybe you'll find some books that sound interesting to you, or maybe you've read some of these already, and I'd love to talk to you about how you felt about them. So feel free to leave a comment down below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you've enjoyed my content so far, I would really appreciate a subscribe. Hopefully you continue to enjoy the content that I put out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye, friends.